Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. I am Adanna Combie, and we begin conversations this morning in studio. We speak with Inspector Dexter Miller of the TTPS, and we have two very, very important topics that we must discuss this morning. As you are aware, the state of emergency has been extended for an additional 90 days, and we want to know what does that mean for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, especially as the time that we're heading into, of course, is a festive time. And we also want to talk about protection for teachers in schools. You might be aware of a situation that happened just last week between a teacher and a student at school. And you know, sometimes when you think of these things, they're kind of worrisome. So I want to start with the protection for teachers in schools. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you.
So we're getting straight into the conversation this morning, and the photos and videos were circulating on social media over the weekend where we saw this teacher's face, sustained injuries due to an altercation with a student in school. We have had conversations on the show before, and we've had conversations in the public space.
Right.
What are the measures that have been put in place for teachers and students as well for protection in school? Because what would happen if a teacher decides to fight back a student? If it were the other way around, where a teacher, when they got into this altercation, the student ended up with these bruises and wounds, I would say, on their face, what would be the position?
Well, firstly, we have to understand and remember that when we see a video, we don't see the beginning. We always see probably the middle and the end. So we don't know the whole story. We never always does. The TTPS is one stakeholder in education. There's education, there are other stakeholders. From our standpoint, the schools have security officers, there are school safety officers who have a dual function in terms of security and monitoring of the students. So what we need to do is probably up the training, review the contracts, see what the scope of the responsibilities are in terms of coverage within the school perimeter. It's a straight case of assault if we have the facts as we view it, or occasioning a wound. So again, without knowing the whole story, we cannot make an informed decision as to what transpires. But there is a need for more protection at school for both students and teachers and other persons on the compound. We know the present climate of crime, and they are targeting young persons and school children, and some of the gangs are starting to recruit from even at the youngest at age 12. So there's a holistic discussion that should take place now between all the stakeholders towards education and young people in that respect to treat with the situation. It is prevalent, it is happening. Some schools are not reporting it. What we have seen on that video is only one of an instance that may have happened during that particular day. And we're always quick to take, the persons around these situations are always quick to take to the social media to highlight rather than to help. That is something that is, we've seen it. People are not helping. People are not getting involved. There are other adults around who are not getting involved, who choose not to get involved.
Because they don't want to get their face smashed in. So, they have self-preservation. That could be the case where
yes,
that is concerned.
It could be the case. There's a fear of the situation, and that is real. That is as real as it is. So it's a whole discussion that we have to try to get together.
And when a report is lodged, what is the investigation part of it? Is there a thorough investigation where you can get the information that you're talking about to make an informed decision as to what charges, who are the charges going to be laid upon, and what are the actions that will take place after this? Is there going to be an arrest? What is going to happen after an investigation is conducted?
Well, the investigation will take place. Both sides will be interviewed. The minor and the adult, to get the story from the beginning. They were trying to get independent witnesses who choose to come forward and say something to lend an independent source of information in the situation. Because it's a minor, there's a procedure that will be followed. Based on the facts, that file may go to the Director of Public Prosecution for review. So there's a number of steps. I know education would have their own report and internal investigation. Tutor would play their part in the situation. So the police would have their part to play towards bringing it to a closure, whether it's an arrest or otherwise.
So this is a call now for collaborative efforts for all the agencies, all the stakeholders involved in education in Trinidad and Tobago to get on board to possibly revise what is already implemented in terms of protection for schools. Because we know there are security officers, we know that there are safety wardens at schools, but we need to reevaluate and reassess what their roles and functions and what their responsibilities are to ensure a safe space in schools, right? So we can conclude with that.
Yes.
So we're hoping that that conversation would happen and that things will be implemented to make sure that, you know, your child could feel safe going to school. A teacher, you're happy to get out of your bed to go to school to teach and not think, well, perhaps somebody might sail a bottle at my head. You know, we have to be real. It's the times that we're living in, so we have to be real. So we're hoping that those things can be put in place so that we can get to a place where teaching and learning is comfortable and convenient for all involved.
And we at the TTPS, we are stand willing to play our part in the situation. You know, we have an integral part to play. It's not only punitive. We can advise, we can have programs, we can give lessons, we can help structure the security measures. So we are standing ready and willing to play our part in the situation.
All right, well, let's see how that rolls out. But I want to move on now to our next topic. As we are aware, there's been an extension of the SOE. Additional 90 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct.
Which takes us into Carnival, and I didn't calculate all the way down to Easter. I didn't calculate all the way there. But the festive season, where all sorts of things happening. You have panorama, you have events, you have all different parties, fetes, all types of things happening, reveling and all sorts of things happening around that time. And while there isn't a curfew at this point in time, what exactly, one, is the purpose, and what does it mean for us here in the Trinidad and Tobago space?
Let me start by saying this. Law or laws or implementation or enactment thereof is not only for the law abiding, but it's more geared towards the lawbreaker. So we are in a situation where we have a state of emergency going into festive heightened seasons. It could be viewed in a number of ways. From the security organization standpoint, the TTPS, it means that we are already on a heightened sense of alert where the security is concerned. We already always said that Carnival is safe, and carnivals in previous years have been safe. So if we have this momentum from now going into festive seasons, Carnival and Easter, it means we are already on a path to ensure that you are safe, to ensure that every masquerader is safe, every visitor is safe. So we can look at it from that standpoint, which is always the positive first. Now, the person intending to break the law, that person knows that we are in a state of emergency and going into festive seasons. It will only intensify from the standpoint of the authorities. So it means that they too are aware that they have to check what they are intended to do or would like to do. So we want the public to feel even more safe that we are already have a momentum of heightened security from now, that we can treat with you going out, treat with you coming in, treat with you playing your mask, treat with you and your women's group going out and partying and nobody interfering with you, and the fear of crime should be reduced going into these periods based on what is happening now. People view a state of emergency as being something bad. It isn't. There's a time that we need to change how we do things and how we treat with situations. And basically based on what is facing our country now, it may be, at this present point in time, the best thing that could have been done in order to bring about a necessary change that we need to see where the crime was going. I know since the SOE, we have seen a heightened number of detections in the firearm situation, because we know now firearm is the number one cry on everybody's mind, on their mouth. You know, so we have seen an increase. So it means that going into the next 3 months, this extension period, you can only see law enforcement getting a tighter hold on the present situation that is facing our country at this point in time.
You know, you're saying heightened awareness, heightened approach by the TTPS to ensure, you know, things are done in a specific way and that you're seeing the results coming out of the SOE. In terms of your intelligence, because intelligence might have been there before the SOE, to detect crime and to go into communities, areas, wherever hotspots are, having an idea as to who some of the persons might be, where they reside, where they hang out, where they conduct their business. You might have had that intelligence before. Now that the SOE has been implemented and, of course, extended, is the intelligence increased, or is it? Do you see, more people coming forward with information and assisting the TTPS in terms of, listen, I got some information that might help? How is that working out?
With the implementation of the SOE, what we are seeing is there are avenues now that law enforcement can use. It's not to say that the avenues weren't there before, but there were certain bureaucratic procedures we would have had to follow in order to get certain mechanisms in place to treat with the information that we have and the surveillance and the intelligence. With the SOE, it gives avenues of open situations. There are open doors that through the SOE, law enforcement can channel this intelligence in a shorter possible time to address our target situations. There are persons of interest that we would have had intelligence on prior, but because of certain legislative situations, it's not that we are saying that the legislature is against, but there's a procedure to be followed. Because of the SOE, we can fast track those procedures and treat with intelligence as we are doing with now.
And in the Tobago instance, has that brought any type of results that is alarming, or obviously because we have an SOE, we've been able to do this? Because I know on a weekly basis you'd report the things that you were able to do in that particular period. Since the SOE has been implemented, and of course the legislation has been a little bit relaxed in terms of you're now able to do things that you really want to do as the police. I mean, you really want to get them off the streets, right? Now that you have that relaxation where you can do that, have you seen an increase, a drastic increase that is not just not marginal, like a drastic increase in detection, apprehension, arresting in the Tobago space?
And this is the thing, we may not term it as a drastic increase in detection, but what we are seeing is a heightened increase in targeting persons of interest. So those persons of interest are now in a position that they have to curb, stop, or slow down any illegal activity that they would have been perpetrating on citizens because there's a SOE in place. We can now treat with these persons in a particular way. We can frequent, or the frequency at which we involve ourselves with them, we engage them, we visit them, we put in a check, a welfare check on them. It's increased. So if you know that the police can come to you without warning, without certain documentation, it means that you are now saying that, listen, is either I stop or I face my consequence.
And after the SOE, because the SOE will come to an end at some point in time.
It must.
Right? Legally, it must come to an end. Does the TTPS and the other agencies, well, I know you can only speak on behalf of the TTPS, is there a plan in place? Because when the SOE is removed, I'm not asking you to tell me what your plan is.
Yeah.
But because when the SOE is now removed, is lifted, and we go back to normal life, and I'm talking about the lawbreakers, right? System. The normal system of conducting your business as the TTPS. And it's like, right, so we relax now and really searching as hard as they were before. Is there a plan in place? Because now that it is removed, what's next? What do we do?
Right, so with the removal, we would tend to think that there will be a slack gap now that we cannot hold that rein. But I can assure you that this present commissioner would be in discussion with her executive, together with the Minister of National Security and the legal team, to see what we can implement without too much going back to Parliament if we don't need to change some of the procedure and the policy that could treat with the lawbreaker in a short possible time. You see, the SOE allows us a space of revisiting, rebranding, rethinking our position, how we treat with situations. It also gives the lawmaker the thought processing now that, listen, we can look to change some of the laws that are not being enforced that are on the law books from time immemorial that we can revisit to treat with futuristic country decision making.
And I do hope that whatever strategies are being placed on the table right now, once implemented, we can maintain a place where we can feel safe, and we know that, you know, crime is being fought with aggression. Because I'm telling you, what happened last year in Tobago, it was a real unease. It made Tobago very, very uneasy. Every Tobagonian was on edge because it's something that is unprecedented, and we do not want a repeat of that in Tobago. My other question is about our borders, because we detected, we're finding weapons that we do not manufacture neither in Trinidad nor Tobago, where they're coming from and how they're coming here. Is anything put in place to secure our borders? We keep asking this question time and time again. Our borders need strong protection.
Right. Under the Ministry of National Security, I can tell you that continuous discussion is being had with, like, the U.S. government for assistance. We are looking at what is happening. I mean, just like the person perpetrating or bringing in fire, he too had an organization that is strategizing. So Trinidad and Tobago alone cannot do it. We are doing our best at this present point in time. But with the increase that we are seeing, we need assistance, and we are seeking that collaboration with other territories. There's the DEA, there's the FBI, there are other CARICOM countries that we are in discussion with right now to have collaborative efforts in securing not only Trinidad and Tobago, because it comes from outside to come in. So if we treat with the other territories to assist us in stopping at the point of disembarkation or embarkation, so to speak, we can treat with what is coming in, because our internal resources will deal with that. So we are trying our best. We are in discussion with these territories. The minister is treating with it. I mean, the Coast Guard is doing their best under the present circumstances. People keep crying that they have no ships, we have no boats, but it's a progress type situation that we have to respect, that there's a procedure to follow to procure these equipment, and they are extremely expensive.
Well, Inspector Miller, you know, the public of Trinidad and Tobago will be looking at the agencies to see what is happening, and of course to see the differences, because enough is enough where we are concerned. I wish we continue to wish the TTPS the best. And we call communities. There's a mantra that the TTPS always brings here on the station. If you see something, say something. It affects all of us. So we have to be a part, and we have to work together to ensure that we can eliminate crime in our communities, in our streets. Right where you live, probably a neighbor you don't know. If you see something that is out of, the norm, or out of what is we call character here in Tobago, say something. Contact the TTPS. You can contact Crime Stoppers. There's so many anonymous hotlines that you can call to give your information there, to be a collaborator with the TTPS to get rid of crime in our communities in Trinidad and Tobago. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, ma'am, we know Carnival is here. We want to reassure the public that they will be safe. They can go freely, traverse the streets. The agencies will be out in full force. The TTPS, the TTDF, the Coast Guard will be out in full force. There's no reason to be fearful. There are programs, there's discussion, there are strategies that I cannot speak of that are going to be taken into effect coming into the heightened season. So it's just for us to partner. We are continuing to ask for the patience of the public, but rest assured we have your interests at heart.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it there from Inspector Dexter Miller. They have our interests at heart. So let's just cooperate with them and see what is going to happen next. But in the meantime, of course, you need to be alert and protect your environment, protect yourself, and as much as possible, collaborate with the TTPS. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break before we continue conversations in studio. And up next, we have Oral Saunders, former General Secretary of the PSA. We're going to have that conversation next. So you want to stay with us. And as you stay with us, of course, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.